Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Start as a way to WIMS. Let me take a graphical runbook over here. Whatever VMs we have within a given resource group using a partial workflow. To showcase this, I already have a virtual machine here. Watch Windows VM and the current status that you see is top deallocated. First import is done. Let's go to our runbook. If you see the steps over here, it will help you with number of steps creating a single VM, creating a single VMan, getting all VMs in a resource group within a subnet. Depending upon which is the relevant environment behind it, can check for each of these members. Getting a run as connection. It automatically helps you log in as a user over here. And each step that you see will help you to specify details for each of these members. Let's go ahead and run this. You can do it using a test pane or you can first. Like I said, it also gives you a dev and test environment. You can try out things over here. Let me specify the resource group name as well as VM name is concerned. Let me mention my name over here. Connection asset name not required. I can leave this as it is. Click on Start. From stop delocated state, it has moved to updating state. And from updating state, it has moved to running state. You can see this. Now, this could be this here. I am not just here. I have mentioned the vman name. If I don't mention the vman name, it will go in the, it will go into the resource group. And whatever resources we have over here, within that resource group, it will start all the virtual machines in that resource group. And we saw that in the graphical runbook. Am I correct? This is what I wanted to show yesterday. How do you use Power? How do you use automation account? And like I said earlier, there could be number of things. Can you go back to that? Can you go back to that where you selected that graphical thing? One more time. Go to Browse Gallery. Within Browse Gallery, start as V2X. Oh, Graphical Runbook. What I realized was this flow. A PowerShell flow runbook is some problem. It's not running. The second option which we had is PowerShell Runbook, which is a new one. Here we were facing the challenges credentials. I went ahead with the Graphical Runbook and I got it working with Graphical Runbook. It's easier also, like we can see, like how many VMs are there. Correct. We have gone. I'm sorry. By default, if we don't mention a VM name, it would automatically assume everything and it would run everything right. That's right. Nothing default is. If you go to Graphical Runbook, it can help you get all the three. Get single VM. Get VMs in the resource group. Get all VMs in the resource group. Get all VMs in the subnet. If we don't mention, it goes to all in the subnet. Right. All resource group. The last one is a by default option that it goes for. This was about the automation and how do you perform automation over here. Especially in cases of disaster recovery scenarios, this will play a pivotal role because it has to initiate the resources within the subsequent site. That is a secondary site. Generally, in the real-time scenarios, like the disaster site is not running all the time. Whenever you are going for an active, passive site, the secondary site is not always running. This is a good use case then. This is a good use case. And even if it's cloud environment, like even if it's running like it costs the company, right? That's right. And where Azure gives you an uptime oscilla of 925, 95, and 99% at times. Why would somebody want to keep the secondary site running always? Only in those scenarios, that is, say, for 5 hours, 10 hours in a year, where the primary site is down, only then you would want to run the secondary one. One silly question. The run books we're not going to be having in the, it's going to be a new VM, right? That's right. When you say good new VM, what do you mean by that? I mean, it's not going to be on the original server, which will be going down. Once it goes down runbook, usually it's checking the polls and it's going to start the next. It's going to be different. Resource group, right? As far as these scripts are concerned, these scripts are running onto an unknown, the unknown VM instance. It is Microsoft managed. We don't have to worry where this workbook runbook is running. But we configure in the same server. I mean, when we are configuring it, it's a service. You configure it, but where it is running, how it is running, what is the underlying environment that is being managed by Microsoft? We do as an admin. We don't have insight into where this is running, on which VA. We just write a runbook and execute it, which is managed by Microsoft. That's true. That's true. Oh, but I think maybe I missed something in the previous class, like because we are saying here the original, the main virtual machine, and the main configuration. And the second one is a disaster recovery site. And I think there should be some place where it has to check the heartbeat of the primary server, right? That's true. Where is that the sites actually? That's maybe. That will be the automation account. Oh, that will be the O. Sorry, my mistake. That will be yes, sir. Azure Site Recovery. Azure Site Recovery is the one which will check for the secondary site. And on checking the heartbeat, saying that the primary site heartbeat is 0 or it's not running, then it will go and take help of automation account to execute scripts on the secondary site. That's the separate service called Azure Site Recovery. Oh, it's a service. We'll come to that section later. When we discuss about business continuity solutions, backup solutions, a disaster recovery solutions, that question is valid. Automation account is the responsibility is only to execute the scripts, nothing else. It will not check the heartbeat. You're right with that. That kind of clarifies my question as well. So Bash, in real-time situation scenarios, do we use this a lot? Whenever you have to build the entire new environment using the desired state configuration or execute scripts and build a complete new environment, rather than doing these things manually and other than waiting for step 1 to be completed, step 2 be completed. You give all these things and put it inside the runbook. Once it starts, it will do all those things step by step and automate the next environment. That's the core purpose of automation account. The beauty over here is even if you have things on the on-premises environment or some things in AWS or other environments, you can initiate those steps from here. What it needs is connectivity information to the next environment. There is something called it. It can start there is something for this hybrid runbook worker. Through that, if it can connect to the on-premises environment, it can help you install softwares or do updates or to your S updates on the on-premises systems as well. And it needs to be done through Azure portal. That's it, right? It's not like again to the Visual Studio or anything like that. It's not available like that. Visual Studio. No, you have to go through your Azure resources. You can do it through CLI or create this entire thing using a commercial environment. That can be done. Creation of automation account can be done using a partial environment. CLI or shell. Got that? The scripts that you showed, we also have 3 available scripts for the VMs. I put starting and everything right. Right. Got that as well. I mean, if it's available, I wouldn't definitely. But you can. But Shaba's like one more thing like because you just showed us like the pre-existing script, like in case. In the real case scenario, like somebody built a production, the whole thing as a primary site. They can like, how can they take a template of the whole thing? Because I know I saw taking the templates for a virtual machine, that kind of stuff I saw. But if it's a 3-4 levels of layers in a different regions, like how do they take out the whole template and create a DD aside from that? I didn't get it. Created yes, not yet. You see, no disaster recovery site. I'll come to that section. Once we talk about VR, we'll come to that section there. See, right now, what we are discussing is right now. The focus is understanding how to run this, run books. That's it. The bigger piece of it will complete once we talk about Azure Site Recovery. We'll have that section a bit later. If you want to create anything custom here, if you see if I go to start VMs or take up a new member, no, not a source group. Here I can go ahead, create a runbook and say test runbook or whatever name I want to mention. What is the runbook type I want? If you see the options available, your partial runbook, Python runbook, graphical runbook. You want to use a partial workflow, graphical partial. Right. You can create your required resource over here. If you don't want to use it from a gallery, you want to create your own custom runbook, you can do that. Now, inside this runbook, whatever resources one would want to create, right? You can see series of members over here. Right. Just click on Add to Canvas. Right. Then what other resources you want over here? Get your account and check whatever VMs we have and then export the Azure VMs. You can create your own steps over here, whatever you want. Save it, test it and verify. I got to write. He said, if I already have some of these things as part of the library, I would not want to create it. And it is a huge library of day-to-day usage resources, day-to-day usage scripts. Let's go to the next module here, which is implementing and managing Azure governance solutions. Now, as far as governance is concerned, this is something which is very, very critical. Once it comes to large organizations, or even in case of mid-size organizations, if you have to create something over here, and especially when there are customers who are new to cloud or there are people who are enthusiastic to cloud, but they have not worked with these kind of things earlier, it could become disaster at times for them as well, because The number of resources they would create or number of things they are trying out without taking right precautions. Right? The cost will be very, very high. Keeping that kind of thing in mind, it is essential that we make or put right governance practices in place before we hand it over to the end users. Right. Or before we add new administrators over here. Now, keeping those things in mind. And if you look at what we have been mentioning about cloud, we have been saying as far as cloud is concerned. Here you have three primary resources: compute, storage, networking. Once it comes to networking, here we have been mentioning about connectivity with on-premises environment. Right? The users are creating unwanted resources. Right? And if they are able to communicate or connect with their on-premises environment, if there is any issues with your cloud environment, it can also impact your on-premises environment. What we have to do is we have to make sure we have right people who have options for compute. They are right people who have resource access to networking and storage as well. Because one of the advantages that we have with cloud, that is pay as you go, is also disadvantage of cloud. What is the disadvantage? If you look at your on-premises environment, worst thing, what could happen over here in on-premises environment is you have purchased a resource, you have paid for it, and you are not using it. Am I correct? Whereas if you go to cloud, even if you are not using it, and it keeps running, which means you have to pay for it. Right? It is important that if not required, you need to shut down the resource. You need to shut down these resources. If you don't shut down the resources, and if you have a, say, G series machine or N series machine, which are high configuration systems, if you forget to shut down a machine, what will happen? You have exorbitant cost over there. You have to make sure that whenever you are creating such kind of environments, you put appropriate restrictions in place. Am I correct? You have to put restrictions and provide appropriate access rights to people that they use this environment safely. There are a lot of advantages of cloud, but there is also a management overhead that you will have. You have to do that. When you are creating these resources, you will agree with me. Yes? Any scenario that you all have come across on your customer side where they had incurred a lot of cost. Because I didn't in India, I have come across number of customers where they said cloud is not good. Because first month bill there was a very, very, very high. Because they had used as SDs. People had gone ahead, created machines of very, very high configuration. They could not figure out how much will be the cost. And then when the billing was there, we had to struggle with Microsoft saying that Please give rebates because they are first-time customers. And there were issues at that side. We had gone through some of these issues. Even within our organization, I am not saying of today, somewhere around 2014 or 2015. We created some of the VMs for customers. We told them to shut down the VMs, but they did not. Even we did not do anything at our side. Those VMs kept running for around a month or, and we had a bill of around 6 to 7 lakhs. Things have gone wrong at our side as well. In the initial phases, because we were also in the discovery phase to understand how this works. And many of these things also comes via the bad habits that we have. At our office premises, we keep the systems running because you would want to connect it from some other location. Take remote of it. We just turn off the monitor, but the machine is still running. Am I right? Same kind of practice on cloud can turn out to be very, very expensive. Because here, if you keep the machine running and you don't shut down the machine from the portal, you will keep incurring cost for it. That's why it is essential that you perform these actions, you perform these activities, and be very careful with that. After understanding the need for governance, now let's see how do you implement this governance. Using resources over here, that is rule-based access control. And second is Azure policy. Let's go to rule-based access control. As part of rule-based access control, what this talks about is how do I specify appropriate rule to set off group or applications that I am creating. How do I specify permissions to them? Once you look at this rule-based access control, this will help you to get a fine-grained access management. Now, what do I mean by fine-grained? Every user who is logging in, whether they are logging in, whether it is much, whether it is guru, whether it is code peanut, each of these people will have right access to their set of resources. And not just that, even you can specify what actions they would want to perform. Say for example, China is a project manager, Gopi is a team lead, Guru, Viman administrator, right? Whereas Arjun is from security team, right? Arjun will have only read permissions to the virtual machines. Guru will have only read permissions on the security resources being created, right? Gopi will have permissions just to go and start the VM or shut down the VM. Chennalpha will have read permissions on everything, but he cannot create any resources anywhere. Are you getting? Subhash as an external consultant will have read permissions on 3 to 4 resource groups, but he can't create anything. Subhash can have permissions to download the log files and check what has gone wrong. Check for the correct if everything is going right or not. Are you getting it? Each and every user that we are creating in this environment can have permissions very, very specific to the roles that they are playing. I would say the KPIs which is being assigned to them. They will have those kind of permissions there, right? That is what is kind of thing that you can create And that's what I mean by fine-grained access management. Let's go to the second point here. When you see Azure built on Azure Resource Manager, what is the meaning of this? Azure Resource Manager is concerned. There are different set of There is a hierarchy over here. Once it comes to Azure environment, you have the top group over here called as Root Management Group. Within Root Management Group, you have management groups. You have number of subscriptions. Within these subscriptions, you have resource groups. Within resource groups, here you have your right. This is the hierarchy that we are mentioning. May also resource over here may have subscription. Direct. The root management group as not a problem. There is not a compulsion that you have to have a child management group. Right. Choice is yours. How do you to organize it? This is the hierarchy which exists, or these are the levels that we have once it comes to our Azure environment. How do you want to leverage on this? How do you want to enforce the fine-grained policies to your users, group, applications? That is something that you will have to decide. This is what I said. Built on Azure Resource Manager. This is the hierarchy that exists. I think next one I already mentioned with example. What when you say segregate duties, these within your team? This is what I mentioned with example. Different people can play different roles depending upon their cares, depending upon their areas of focus within the system. And also, this will avoid any kind of finger pointing. Things goes wrong. Right. Any is not working, has not been created effectively. There should be clear rule definition. Even if you look at which site reliability engineering, there is nothing called as blame game there. Right. Most of these things that we are looking at, clear cut assignment of rules, and people should do there. People should have right access which can help them perform their duties. Now let me take a pause for a moment here. Now when you say segregate duties within your team, there are two things I'm talking about. Whatever duties I have been assigned, I should have respective permissions for that. And second thing is, I should have only those permissions Please don't assign any other permissions to me. Because being a human being, I'm being inclusive in nature. I will try clicking here, clicking there, and that could create a problem for you. Right? Give me only those permissions which is relevant for my. The another term that you call in terms of security, least access permissions. Now, when you say least access permissions, it's give only those permissions which is required in, day out usage. Now, if you feel Guru as a user or Gopi as a user may need some permissions down the line for a specific task whenever required, at that point in time, give that permission. Are you getting it? Assign the permission when required. Don't assign it earlier. There is a as back, right? And this backup is supposed to be done once in a month. I'm just giving a X or once in 2 weeks. Whenever required, at that time, assign the policy through a role-based access control. Give that permission to the user, and once job done, remove it. It should be as precise as that. Right. Whenever you have least permissions to the user, you will avoid any kind of unwanted access. You will avoid any kind of such issues which can happen on day-to-day basis. Right. This is the next point. Only amount of access to the user which is required. Don't assign additional permissions. By assigning additional permissions, we are creating a trouble for ourselves. Once it is being done, you are simplifying a lot of these things for yourself. Once you want to assign these permissions, you can specify permissions like I said earlier. People want to start the VM, stop the, have access to respective resources over here. Once you have all these things created, once you have these access permissions being specified, I can have 3 kind of permissions. Second is only 2 kind of permissions. And any. Whether you want to allow the user access or allow a day. If you look at Denny permissions, allow permissions, allow for informations, will in terms of performing a specific action, whether that action in the particular resource is there or not, it can go up to that level. Once you have done all these things into a specific environment, right, you may want to apply it onto another environment as well as which is use Azure Blueprints. Through Azure Blueprints, you can move these things, move these set of roles that you have created, production environment, staging environment, or the new resources that you are creating for another customer. You can reuse these members there. If you look at rule-based access control in Azure portal, with every hierarchy, with all the members within the hierarchy, you will see this option there, access control. I'm refers to identity and access management. If I go to the environment over here, let me go to the top level, which is management groups. Here you can see tenant root group, CFG group. Here if you see, we have option of access control. Now here what we can do is we can assign roles over here, whichever user you want. Assign user, assign access to a user, group, or a service principal. Right? You can specify. You can associate permissions for user assigned managed identity, a system assigned managed identity. What is this managed identity? We'll come to this a bit later. But right now, you can assign it to a group. User group. Application. For application, you have something called service principal. When you are specifying access control, you also have to specify what is the role that you would want. Can you see the roles over here? Top level roles that you have is contributor. Includes everything. Owner in sense. You can assign the permission. And this, whoever is the owner, can delegate permissions to others as well. Right? That's what is referred as a owner. Contributor. And owner is concerned. They are same. Contributor can't delegate access to anybody else. That's the only change. Rest in terms of creation, modification, deletion. All those rights, you have it, contributor. As far as reader is concerned, the person who is being assigned that access permission can only see that information, can't update or change anything. But this is generic. If I grew it on the iterant root group, this is more and more generic in nature. And we said we should create fine-grained security. Right? Fine-grained, role-based access control. If you look at fine-grained access control, can you see this? Attestation reader, automation operator, Kubernetes, RB, billing reader, cognitive service data reader, cognitive service face recognizer. Can you see this? Is this very, very specific role that you are assigned to a particular person, group, application? You can see series of services over here. Storage queue data reader. Even if I have a storage account, within that storage account, I have number of services like table, file share. Right. Whoever I am assigned that permission, that person cannot do any other action apart from queues. A prompt, reading data from the queue. You can be specific. Can I say fine-grained? This is what I mean by fine-grained. Is this part clear with everyone? No confusion here. A person can be assigned with multiple roles as, right? Absolutely correct. A group or an application can be assigned multiple roles as well. Does it need to be, with the same UI that we are looking at? Is it going to be here? Do we need to create prof? You know something differently. Or the people who are like a group, and all the people who are in that group would be assigned like these roles. Something like that. When we are dealing with multiple roles, it's up to you. For a user or a group or a service principal, you can do it from here. Select a role that you would want, which user or a group that you would want. And here you can see all the users and groups, right? I have service desk. I have junior admins as groups. I have users over here. In real-time situation, is the users given direct access? Are they arc? Is it like a first group is given the access and people are put into the group? How does it really work in the real-time situation? That you will have to define as an administrator. How do you want to give permissions? But the recommendation if I give you, if you do it on a user level, you're doing a big mistake. Because that's what I use. The organization or moves to another department within the organization. Again, you have to go and change that into a group as part of governance. What you do is you first create these management groups. You organize number of subscription inside that. While you are doing these things on the Azure level, you go to Azure Active Directory. And within Azure Active Directory, you create your groups as per the departments that you have within your organization. That will be a separate activity that we are doing within Azure Active Directory. Now to your Azure resources, you will assign permissions to each of those Azure Active Directory groups. But like I said, in real world scenarios, we never map it to users. Users, right? Because users keep coming and going. It will always be assigned to a group. Even if it's a small team that we are. No problem. Makes sense. Thank you. Subhash is a consultant right now. You can say, I have a consultants group. Apart from Subhash, there could be other people from his organization who are coming from for consulting. I will add that person into the same group. I don't have to worry. Who's the consultant? Makes sense. That's part of the group. That person will have same set of permissions. Can a person be allowed to the multiple groups? Why not? This is what I mean by role assignment. This is what I mean by why I was on the tenant root group. Let me now go to subscription level. On subscription level, here if you see subscription. On subscription, I've access control. I am identity and access management again. And you see same set of resources here. What is the role assignment that you are giving to the user? Now what I am doing is, I am decreasing the scope. I am decreasing the scope over here. Getting more into details. Each of these roles. Right. You'll have to be more and more specific over here. I can still drill down to resource groups. Within a resource group, what permissions I want to mention over here. For a user, for a group. Within a resource group, whatever resources I have. On that resource, what permissions I want. Say a keyword. For a keyword, what permissions I want. Can you see this? Now you see the things have changed, right? Contains that instance data factory. Logic. Now it has become service specific. And this will be different. If I go to a virtual network, access control, add role assignments. If you see the roles over here, for a virtual network, whatever is relevant, it will show you only that things. Virtual machine user login, storage account contributor, SQL and security manager. Now you have roles which are specific to that particular resource, and it will change. From resource to resource. Now there can be scenarios. I want a specific role which is not available here. It's very much possible. In those scenarios, what I have to do is, I need to create a custom role. You can also create a custom role over here. And using these custom roles, you can specify what permissions do you want for a specific user, for a specific group, within your team. Does it make sense to everyone? We can create like multiple permissions as a custom group and assign that to a group. Custom role. Also, there might be a way where we can see for each user like what permissions we have instead of going after the resources, right? Role assignments. You can see which user has been assigned what roles over here. Which user has analytics contributor. Which users have owner role, reader role. All those things you can see over here. What I'm saying, this is your inside virtual machine. You are seeing what are all the users assigned. Virtual machine. Virtual machine. All the roles. This. Right. What I'm saying. See, all the roles. You group management. You do. Everything will be whatever is being assigned to that user. Particular. You do that. you can PowerShell. Through PowerShell, you information particular environment. You can do that. This is what I'm showing is on that particular resource which user has what roles. But you can do other way round as well. You can go to your PowerShell or CLI, which is more rules assigned to a single person. That is possible. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.